Good afternoon. My name is Hannah Hardy, and today I'm going to be presenting my Instructional Technology project on incorporating art into STEM. I'm so excited about this project because I feel very passionately about incorporating art into the classroom and into your STEM and curriculum, and I'm excited to share with you all the research that I found to back up this and how important it is and how many activities and things that I found about how wonderful it is. And so let's go ahead and get started and jump right in. Okay, so for my objective, it is to present the ideas on how to incorporate art into STEM and the reasoning behind the importance. So you may be thinking, what is STEAM or STEM and what does it stand for? And that's totally 100% fine. That if you don't know what it is, I didn't know what it was until I started the education program and started learning about it, and I had heard my instructors and educators around me and teachers throughout my school experience talking about it, and I never really understood what it was, but we're going to go over it. So STEM it's an acronym, and it stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And when you add the A in there for STEAM, it adds art. So Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Mathematics. And the opportunities are endless to use these in your classroom. I've added a great graphic here that kind of shows pictures of the science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, and it has the circle going around it, showing that they all can be used one and the same and incorporated into each of the different curriculums. So for our activity that we're going to do, I'm super excited. So on your tables, I've already prepared and laid out different Ziploc bags. Each table has one Ziploc bag full of various items. Some of them may be silly. Some of them you may not know what they are. But you're going to partner up at your tables and open the bags, disperse the items. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. It sounds like a long time, maybe sounds like a short time, but you only have 3 minutes to create anything you want. There are no rules. The only rule is being that you have to create something, and you have to use all the objects on your table. So feel free to get creative. Use anything on the table. You can't use anything in your backpacks, pens, pencils, paper, anything like that. Only the resources you have in the bags. So I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. So we're going to see what we can do. Have fun! Okay, let's come back together. Okay, so we're going to look around the room and share what we've created. And I saw a lot of you having a lot of fun. And I wish you could have had that one extra item on someone else's table and things getting creative. But that is the beauty of this activity, is that you had no rules except the one to use the items. You could use your own brain. And I saw some of you saying, like, oh, if I had their materials, I would have made this, or I would have made that. But that's what's so wonderful about this, is because it came from your own brain, like your own creativity, and it was original. You and your partner, you created it together, and what y'all thought could use for that table may have been completely different what someone else would have done for it. But it was out of your brain, your creativity. And if you can imagine, I know it sounds silly because we're all older college students, but if you can imagine how that makes a kindergartner or an elementary age school student feel that they have the control over their own materials and they can use them and manipulate them however they want, there's no telling with their small, smart, amazing brains that they could come up with. And it's opening up that gateway of creativity for those students, and it's absolutely wonderful. Even though you didn't have a specific assignment on here, we're going to talk about did you learn something? Did you realize, hey, I didn't know I could use this for that, and now that I've manipulated it, I've felt it, I've got my hands on it, that I can make something different. So that's what this whole presentation is about, is using arts and using our hands and maybe using different creativity and finding out what we have to use in our brains that we may not even realize is there, accessing that. So we're going to talk at our tables a little bit and talk to your partner about reflecting on this activity. Okay, so this is one of my favorite graphics on here. I had to add it. It's the old saying, full steam ahead. And you add the A in there. And this graphic shows the importance of the A, how STEM versus STEAM, when you add that A in there, the arts, it can gravitate everything together and make everything come together as one and make it wonderful. And there's so many different opportunities that you can do with that full steam ahead, with that access to everything. And we're going to dive into it deeper in this presentation. Okay, so you may be thinking, what do you mean by art? So a lot of people think that, art is just coloring, and we're going to give our kindergartners a coloring sheet because we want to do our lesson plans, or we need to do something, but we need to keep them quiet, so let's give them some coloring sheets. That is so far from the truth that it's completely nothing what art is supposed to be. Art can be millions of different things, and I've showed some of these on here. Music. Music is a form of art. Dancing. When you have music and you can remember, I know personally with one of my experiences growing up when I was learning anatomy and things, I would set it to music, and there's studies that have shown, we'll get into that in my research here in a little bit, but that when you set things to music, that it helps you retain it and you can remember better because you have a rhythm and you have something going to help you keep track of everything. And models. You can make models. This is a magnificent way of learning because when you make a model, you have to manipulate everything, put it together, and you have to see how it works, what it works. If you don't have this one piece of the model, will it all fall apart? There's various things that you can do with making models for children to learn. Acting. This graphic represents acting. When we're younger, we put it deep into our curriculum with centers, like in kindergarten and first grade and pre-K, especially centers with the drama and the kitchen centers and things like that. But we don't realize that you can add it into curriculum when you get older. It's not just the young babies. Acting out things and actually going through the motions of what you're trying to learn helps you remember it, and it makes you have your own ownership to it and things, and helps you really retain information. Sculptures. This is one that's mainly what people mainly think of when they think of art is sculptures. I'm going to make something with my hands. I'm going to create it. I'm being artistic, and there is so much to learn from creating your own sculpture. I had to add this in here. This goes along with music, but of course dancing and moving to the rhythm of something. A tutti ta is one of my absolute favorites that we do in the younger elementary grades, especially pre-K and kindergarten. If you don't learn anything from it except from, different ways of phonemic awareness in your mouth and the things that you say and you hear, there are things to learn with art all across the spectrum. This, I had to add a TED Talk. This is an absolutely amazing young woman. She's an innovator. She is so smart and very educational and informational in this video. I'm not going to play it because it's, I don't really have time through my presentation, but if you have time, go back and watch it. It's only about 7 minutes. It won't take up much of your time, but she goes through her presentation, and when she starts from the beginning with Albert Einstein, and then she goes to Leonardo da Vinci, and then she has all the way up to Steve Jobs with Apple. And she makes the connections with all of these amazing innovators and how they have changed the world, and she adds in the fact that all of it was through art, and how art comes together in the STEAM, and how it's so important to have art because all of these successful people in the world have used that, and how it's their backbone and how we need to have it in the elementary classrooms. So to get deep into one of my research articles, I'm so excited I had to add this one in here. I read, the title of it is 3 and 4-year-olds Learn About Gears Through Arts Incorporation. Can you imagine a 3-year-old gears? I don't remember even learning about gears, probably not until high school. But these 3 and 4-year-olds in this charter school that I read about in my scholarly article research showed that they focused on the effects of using art in the classroom and how it improves the knowledge retention of the students. That was the main point of this article, was that they are so young, but they were manipulating and using these gears. And they had them in their hands, and they were making things with them and physically feeling how they turned and what they used to work on. And they did projects of holding things and turning them so that they could use them for extra force. And it showed that the students learned and retained so much information because not only did they have background information of the teacher gave them, read a little bit to them, maybe showed them a video or two, but the actual act of doing it and creating these projects and using their hands is what gave them the retention and the ability to remember and actually grasp the concept. And I think that is a phenomenal way to teach our young students especially. And it also talks about how studies show that children retain more when they enjoy what they are learning. if they're coming to school, that is such a big point. If they're coming to school and they're just sitting there and they hate it and they're bored, the babies are not going to remember what they're learning. And maybe after vocabulary word or dictionary definition, maybe they'll remember it. I mean, that's how I learned, but I don't really remember much. But if these students, especially if students that are coming from rough homes, if they're feeling safe in their environment and they love the classroom and they love the atmosphere and everything about your classroom and how fun it is, they're going to learn more and they're going to succeed and grow up to be who knows what. Our generation that we're teaching could be presidents, they could be astronauts, they could be even just retailers or farmers. All of these jobs and occupations are so important, and giving them arts in their classroom is going to help them be successful. Students in this study learned so much by creating the gears. We talked about that. And learning by creation is more effective than reading simply or looking at pictures. It's very, very effective. This is one of my, well, the first one was my favorite, but this one is also my favorite. This saying, this quote, creativity is the secret sauce to science, technology, engineering, and math. So it's saying creativity, as known as art, is the secret sauce to STEM. So if you don't have the art, your STEM really isn't that effective. It's going to be effective, but with that art, it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to grow so much more, and you're going to get such more results and amazing positive feedback on that. So you may be thinking, this sounds amazing, but how can young children create sculptures and learn from it? How can my 3-year-old hold something and sculpt something and learn from it? That's okay. I was thinking the same thing until I dug so deep into this research and found that all the studies that have been completed on children, that when they're so young and their brains are so equipped with eagerness and they're ready to learn, they're so much smarter than we can even imagine. The video I added next is an actual teacher in her classroom showing you how she uses art every single day, and she uses it across the curriculum, and it's wonderful. Like I said, I don't have time to show you the videos. I wish I did, but go back and watch them. They're wonderful. This one's only about 7 minutes. It won't take much of your time. And these teachers, they use it in their classroom all the time, like every single day, multiple times a day, and it kind of gets you thinking, how can I use it in my classroom? It gives you some ideas. Okay, for my second article research, I had a second article that was kind of similar to the first one, except it was completely different school system, and they did luminous lighting. They had a STEM activity where they had wire sculptures, and they had to create them, use electricity, and figure out how to make them light up. And this article gives wonderful information on how that creating the models gave the students permanent knowledge of the material, because they had to do trial and error and focus on, okay, this didn't work. What should I change? What device do I need? What material do I need to add to this basic part of the project to make it work? And by using that, they have forever knowledge of saying, they can connect that to anything else, and they can remember that about that one project. These students, when they created the wire sculptures that light up, I read about how when they actually lit up and how they figured it out, and then how they went back and they didn't even really have to look back at notes to write down their explanation for their lab reports. They remembered it because they were so excited. And by creating their own sculpture, these students will never forget the processes it took. Sorry, I'm having a glitch in my computer. Okay, so I added some real life connections and lesson ideas in here for you guys if you wanted to look back at it and maybe make some ideas for our future classrooms. Excuse me. Math, geometry creations, manipulatives, block towers, place value blocks. There are endless opportunities for that. Science, weather stability projects, dancing and creating shadows, creating pictures, describing stories for retelling and reading. There are multiple opportunities that you can use across the curriculums for everything. You can always go to Pinterest for that too. To wrap it up, I'm running out of time. STEAM is a must in your classroom, so always, always, always use it as much as you can. Your students will learn and retain so much that I've proven from the research that I've done. Your students will have fun and they'll enjoy school, therefore they'll be learning more. Your students will boost their creativity and it'll push their limits, and they're going to exceed the goals of your standards, and they're going to shine so much. So my last thing that I want to say before I run out of time, be an innovator and your students will be too. And here's my sources. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all, hope y'all have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. And I look forward to watching your presentations. See ya.